Hello, my name is Gilbert Brown. I was looking through the trot videos here on the tube, and I was hoping to find one on the progress trot, this one here, but I didn't see any. And all they are is the old deck and new made up decks. Even those, none of those told the actual story that the trot tells. And I can understand that, seeing as how the old deck is so jumbled up. They're not anywhere close to the order that they were actually given in a few thousand years ago. So I thought I'd make this video on this the new progressed deck, and we'll see how this goes. This is the back of the cards, what they look like, and this infinity symbol, and one of the only true infinity symbols I've ever really seen. Most just give them as a figure eight, but they're not a figure eight. It's actually two different circles. You'll notice this one here appears to go in and this other appears to come out. There has to be an in and out flow. One of the abilities of space-time. But anyway, the infinity symbol, when you see it from the center, it appears as one circle. But anyway, that's the back of the cards. And the first card that was given back in 1962, the fall of 1962, was the mother card, and these cards were given via the Ouija board in late 62 and early 63 by a group of people out in Carmel, California. And the mother, and that signifies creation. It was the high priestess in the old deck. She sat between the pillars teaching. The mother stands atop the pillars, creating new worlds without end. But her significance is creation. Now, there's a lot of other meanings in here, kind of according to what you're studying, alchemy or prophecy or biblical, and well, it should tell you that you probably need a Bible even for the old deck, because there's a lot of information in the Bible about the trot, old and new. And this one here represents the birth pains that we're going through nowadays, fixing to come upon the new age. The age of Aquarius is what a lot of people call it. As you can see, the one's black and one's white on those pillars. They're the same two pillars that Solomon erected in front of the temple when he built the temple. Like I said, you actually need a Bible, and I would suggest the old King James Version, not the new King James Version. They've changed a bunch of stuff in it. And if you get the old King James Version, then you can get a Smith's Bible Dictionary and other books that can explain meanings and interpret some of the words in case you come to something that you don't understand the language or something in the old King James Version. But as you can see, you have to have a little bit of difference to have flow between one and another. If you actually look at yourself in a mirror, you'll notice that half of your body is one way and the other half is a little bit different. If they were both exactly the same, you'd be static and without flow, and you got to have flow. Time flows. Time and space. The two birds represent fidelity, birth, life. Interesting fact about the great birds that most of them mate for life. The flower she's holding represents from seed to plant to flower to seed. And the lightning bolts is the spark of life. The crown she's wearing are those two serpents of the infinity symbol. Creation is an unending. The wavy line above her is the waters that were separated from the waters. It tells you about it in the Bible if you want to read more about creation. And when you do read that, understand that on the sixth day when he made man, female and male, that was all the people on all the habitable planets in the whole universe. That's not Adam and Eve that he's talking about there. They weren't created till much later. And if you keep reading, you'll see that they created all the flora and fauna long before they actually put it in the earth, because it was still molten then, and they hadn't caused it to rain yet. So when you read the Bible there, you got to read it with some understanding. And if you don't have any understanding, ask God, he'll give it to you if you're serious about wanting to learn. We could easily spend several hours just on this one card here, but we don't have that much time for right now, so we'll move on to the next card. Yeah, I'm giving you these in the order they were given by the Ouija board to the people that received this back in the early 60s. And that's the nameless one. He was the fool in the old deck, but he's learned his lesson, and now he's climbed out of that pit of bones that he fell into, and he's doing a little studying, trying to pay attention to what is going on instead of walking along foolishly not paying attention. You get yourself, I imagine everybody's familiar with getting in trouble by not paying attention to what you're doing or thinking about the consequences of your actions. The scroll he's reading there is mathematics, history, especially history. The old saying of, you don't know your history, you're doomed to repeat it. But he's learning, and like the Bible, you have to actually go back to the original scrolls and know what the words meant back then. Like it says in there in the Ten Commandments, thou shalt not kill. No, that's not what it originally says. Is thou shalt not commit murder. You can't live without killing. This man came up to Jesus, good master. And Jesus asked him, why are you calling me good? There's none but one that's good, and that's your Father that's in heaven. No man doeth good and sinneth not. Or in the words of King Crimson, the gardener plants an evergreen while trampling on a flower. The spider above his head represents our cosmic connection to the universe. The cat dog there alongside him, some people are cat people, some people are dog people. Why not a little bit of both? They're generally trustworthy companions, whereas people are a different story. Yes, you can find a close friend, but they're rare. So we know ourselves, but no one ever really knows the mind of another, even if you're a good mind reader. We're all a little bit different, and it'd be really boring if we weren't. The letter T there on the background represents lots of different things. Truth, tarot, testing, the sacrifice Jesus made to redeem us. If we were still having to sacrifice animals, there wouldn't be no animals left on the planet for our sins. Also time, and this is the time of the end here, and new beginnings. This deck is actually for the coming millennium. The old deck is still in effect there. This one here, as we'll see later, is after when Satan, who's coming here pretty soon, showing up pretending to be Christ. Everybody's going to mistake him for Christ. He's going to be a good-looking guy, doing all the stuff that you think that Jesus would do, and he'll bring in peace and prosperity. And then it kind of all goes sour. But anyway, the name of this one is The One in Motion. When we're doing things, we don't generally think of ourselves in the third person. We don't really have a name for ourselves. It's just the one people gave us when we were born. So let's move on to the next card. And that's the Hanging Man. As you can see, he's separated these two. He's got all his emotions and stuff under control, mostly, except for one emotion here. He hangs others to save the self. A lot of people think that Jesus had a moment of doubt and pain, but his reason he cried was not because he was going to have to mount the cross and be crucified and die and then resurrected, which is what happened, but it was because of what he was doing was condemning a lot of people to the lake of fire because they're not going to believe in anything, especially in God, and they don't want to believe in God because then they're responsible for their actions. They want to pretend like, this is all there is, and you can do whatever you want to do because when you're dead, you're dead. Well, they're in for a big surprise. That's the letter A on his chest. The serpent, girdle of serpents, kind of represents a sacrifice of chastity. Shows separation here with the man on one arm and the woman on the other. The man's chained. The woman is held by a glove, which shows protection for her. The man is treated a little bit rougher. But the woman is upside down. So generally, if you follow the path, you're better off to do it alone. When you get a woman, family involved, cares of the world, read your New Testament Bible, it tells you that. You get distracted by the cares of the world, bills and all that kind of stuff, worrying about what the other person's doing, and jealousies and fear and all that kind of stuff. It's sunrise coming up there behind him, flower up on top of his head. I won't tell you everything I think about meanings and stuff here, but I believe the two buildings it's standing on is like the two religions of Christianity and Islam, some of their beliefs, but it's Christ, he's over all. His white robe signifies purity. Anyway, he awaits redemption of his act as a purely card meaning, if you were reading someone's cards. Then we'll go to the next one. Oh, and the hanging man was the hanged man in the old deck. That brings us to the Virgin. Being is what it represents. It was the world in the old deck. And it was the same woman there, except there's, instead of being flower, it was just the plant. But now the progression, the flower is blooming. The old deck, the symbols up here were the 4 kings of the King's Cross of Aquarius, Taurus, Leo, Scorpio. But now they're the progression of the equinoxes has changed this to where it's Pisces, Gemini, Virgo, Sagittarius. But anyway, these 22 roses here represent the 22 cards or facets of us. There's only one thing, one God, one universe here where we're at. And the 5 leaves represent 5 leaves, which connects it to the past. We have past, present, and future at all times. Even when the present is over with, it's the past. And we still have a future, and we're in what was the future has become the present. Kind of a circle that it makes there, being. She dances on. And before I tell you about this feather she's wearing, I'll ask you if any of you know what a feather signifies. And if you don't know, one of the places you can find out is to watch the movie, well, the Gregory Peck one is made back in the 50s, of Moby Dick, or you can read the book, Moby Dick, about the whale. But anyway, so far, like on the nameless one, there was a letter T. On the hanging man, there was a letter A. And on the Virgin, we've got the letter O. So it's T, A, and an O here. We're missing an R to spell Tarot, although there's one here later on. And there's some information, take it for what you might. 2,000 years ago, when the old deck was presented there, the equinox was in, the fall equinox was in Virgo Libra. The spring equinox was in Pisces Aries. When the pyramids were built, it was in Leo, Leo and Aquarius. But that was quite a while back. We've got this same star, except that the 4 points are down in this one, where in the mother they were up and the 3 were down. But in this one it's reversed there. But anyway, 2,000 years ago, Jesus was here. He was conceived around December 25th, which you could say that was start of life, that he was actually here with us. But he was actually born in late September, probably right around the fall equinox. Some want to say the 29th. Some of the good pastures that you might catch on TV, like the Shepherd's Chapel, and even it actually gives the time when he was born in the Bible, but you have to do a lot of extra studying to find out when the order of priests that were working at the temple at the time, because they all had different times that they were there, different times of the year, and you can actually figure out within a few days of when he was actually born. Like I said, there's a few preachers that have actually done that, well educated, that studied it for a long time and figured it out. But we can always leave stuff for you to do. Nothing beats self-discovery, for you to realize things and feel good about it too. But that always throws us back to the nameless one reading them scrolls. You got to do a little homework if you really want to know about things. But anyway, this is the fourth card that was given, just like these four symbols here. But it could be the fifth card too. Sometimes it's kind of important if you want to subscribe numbers to any of them. Or the ninth, if you add the 4 and the 5 there together. Or if you add the other 22 to that, it could be 27. Or 31. There's lots of different things. If you get into these down here, it's even more so. Numbers or whatever you want to make of them, they help us understand stuff. They not particularly govern anything. But that'll bring us to this fifth card that was given, order given. You achieve being, understand your being. You have to get all of you wanting to go the same direction. Unity. It was the lovers in the old deck, but they, instead of trying to decide between one or another, they're both going in the same direction. 4 phases of the moon: new moon, full moon, first quarter, last quarter. And down here you can spell that out, Tarot, T-A-R-O-T. Probably a lot of people have seen this little bird on a turtle symbol other places. Have you ever figured out what it means? A bird riding on a turtle's back? There's 10 rungs on the white ladder, 8 rungs on the brown ladder. But see how they're different a little bit? You gotta have the flow. They can't both be exactly the same. Just like man and woman, we're different. And that comes in real handy most of the time. Especially when you want an opinion completely different than your own. A man can ask a woman, or a woman can ask a man. You'll get completely different opinions. But anyway, we have our sword here. You might call that Excalibur. We have our star, pentagram. Man represents man. 2 arms, 2 legs, and a head. If it's upside down, that's generally a symbol for Satan, because it looks at it differently. If you're into Masonic stuff, or Satan worship, if you happen to be a Satan worshiper. Got an ear of corn there. Corn is a real handy vegetable, and it's good for you too. And our little bird and turtle. And a lot of the Hindus have some of their religious stuff represents a turtle. The universe sits on top of it, and they churn deal. We won't get into that. Yeah, got to do with DNA. There's two great fishes on here, so you can kind of identify this one with Pisces, maybe. And they're water. Two little hills behind them. A little bit of difference in each one. And if you're really into alchemy and stuff, we have some letters here. Could be Hebrew, ancient writings. But the whole point of unity is all of you has to want to do whatever it is you're going to do to be successful. If part of you doesn't want to do it, you're never going to be able to do a good job of whatever it is you're doing. So you have to get your stuff together to be able to be really successful. Well, I told you guys wrong here. This is the new moon, or full moon. This is the full moon. Then the new moon. Then the last quarter and the first quarter. He has a flower in his hand, and she has a wand in her hand. They're just almost touching, but not quite. But anyway, after you achieve unity, all of you going in the same direction, then you're victorious. The victorious one. See those wolves fighting there back behind that curtain, held up by those blue birds of happiness? The battle is still going on in his brain, but you got to learn to walk away from it, to go on, because that's where the positive and negative meet, and there's always a lot of static electricity flying around there. He holds a brace of lions, a black and white one. Got a sandal on one foot, wings on the other one. Kind of reminds you of Mercury, doesn't it? Messenger of the gods. And the eagle up there with the duality sign of arrows pointed in the opposite directions, which means it's a two-way street. Holding a flower aloft with a hand wearing a glove. Which here it's like a keyhole down here wearing around his neck, or is what it looks like to me. There's his chariot. This was the charioteer in the old deck. But he's walked away from that chariot now. He's not going off to war. He's victorious over it already. Some dice down here. And that's time and chance happiness to every man. Some people say there's no such thing as luck, but they're wrong. Luck plays a big role. Fortune favors the bold. And something we can mention about wings and pictures. Angels don't have wings. They're in the pictures, they're shown with wings to show that they have the ability to fly from one place to another through the air. But they don't need wings. They're just, that just shows that ability to fly. And when you do achieve victory, then the next card comes into play. If I can get it here. And that's the way shower. You'll be shown the way after you're victorious on getting your stuff together. That was a star in the old deck. And there's a rooster cock crow, so it's coming on near dawn. Although the cock's not crowing at the dawn, he's crowing at the star. That was Sirius. That star represents Sirius. That's where chickens are from the people that came here from the Sirius star system. In case you've ever wondered about the races on the planet, they all came from different planetary systems to populate, kind of co-opt the Earth. Terra is the name of this planet, not Earth. We call it Earth, but Earth is matter. So all planets are Earth, except for the gaseous ones, and then they still got Earth at their centers. But this planet's name was Terra because it was terraformed, and colonies were established here from several different planets. The pyramids in Egypt, there's other pyramids there, and if you look at the layout, they are laid out to represent the constellation Orion. There were several colonists that came from the planetary systems in the Orion constellation that settled here. A lot of them have been dismantled. The pyramids, people think, oh, they'll last forever. No, they completely disassembled one of them there that I believe it was the one that represented Rigel. And all you see there now is a hole in the ground, the subterranean hole. The actual pyramid was gone. It was a really beautiful one. Had a kind of a two-tone color, black and brown marble casing stones, but they disassembled it. The Romans did a lot of that one, and they built temples and stuff out of those rock blocks and stuff. But you see the beams of his eyes lighting up this city down here below. Across this river, there's our bridge. A rainbow over here with an upturned cup. There's 5 different cups in the tarot in these 22 cards. There's 5 of them have a cup in them somewhere. And this waterfall comes across here is just that. It's a waterfall of blessings, because water is the main ingredient. You got to have flowing water for life to exist. Down here you have some thistles, so life isn't a rose garden guaranteed. You can make it one if you have the right attitude, but it depends on our attitude. But anyway, like I said, that's the star Sirius there, the way shower, shows the way. And what is the way? The doer. Do and know, and then do knowingly, is the way the tarot puts it. The one that gave it to them, Ouija board. And that's the doer. Whenever we do anything, we're the doer. And this white horse rearing up is our conscious mind, victorious over our unconscious, which is, we've got it tamed. It's not having such a crazy effect on us, but we still got to have a little tether to it just to make sure it doesn't get carried away. He's rearing up on that skull of the past. The past is past. We can learn from it, but we don't have to live in it. And can anybody see the letter of the doer? What letter he represents? Whenever you do something, who did it? I'll let y'all ponder that one there. It's pretty simple, actually. That's a whole thing to life. God, tarot, just about any situation in life, is simplicity. Keep it simple. And there's the doer. So do and know, and then do knowingly. He's got his life as an open book there. He's not trying to hide anything. And when you're the doer, what generally happens to you when you do something? Well, most of us think, well, was that the right thing or the wrong thing to do? I wonder. We start having doubts. And when we have those doubts, let's maybe if I can get him out here. That's this guy, the thinker. And that was Satan in the old deck. The devil. Error is what it actually means. You do something and wonder, well, was that the right thing or the wrong thing to do? Like that, doubt. And whenever he shows up, whenever the doubt, it slows progression. So you want to be careful about that guy. He always causes trouble and confusion. There's a lot to this card. It'll take some time probably to get through it. But this serpent going around points to the preferred direction. Either way will work. You can go either way, good or evil, positive, negative, however you want to look at it. But there's a preferred direction, and that's by what's in your heart. Now, some people have an evil heart. Some people have a good heart. This also is a representation of Pluto's palace, if you ever studied any mythology, and I hate that word, mythology, because it's not made up stories, it's truth. Now, a lot of it has been perverted over the years by Satan and his offspring, the Kenites, they call them, but they were sons of Cain. Satan was Cain's father by Eve, and Abel was Adam was Abel's father. They were twins, paternal twins, had two different fathers. And this man and woman here are chained together, tugging on one side, chains wrapped around his head. This is after he's cast into the pit and chained up with that great chain so he should deceive the nations no more. But anyway, it's a representation of Pluto's palace, the underworld, which is where everybody went when they died. Good, bad, didn't make no difference. You all went to. And when he came up to his palace, the road split. To the left was the side for bad people, and to the right was the side for the good people. And the Bible tells you the same thing. There's a gulf that divides one side from the other, and a lot of people, regular people that don't know God, don't know anything, or just bad people, they're on that side, and the good people that had forgiveness and forgave others, good people, they're on the other side. But in the old mythology, on this side they were tortured there, and on the other side they went in the Elysian fields, and there was a river that ran through that one. There was the river of forgetfulness, and over on the other side of the river of forgetfulness were all the souls that hadn't been born yet and lived a life. It's in any of the old books, you can read about it, find out more about that stuff. But a lot of people, they call time of legends mythology, but they didn't waste the sacred and difficult act of writing stuff down on fairy tales back then. It was, when they wrote stuff down, it was the truth, and they were writing it down for posterity to learn from. Yeah, Jesus even tells you a little bit about this one here, and about Adam and Eve and Cain and Abel, when he tells the parable about the tares, the wheat and the tares. Cain and his offspring are the tares, and not Abel, because Cain killed him, but Seth, their son that he got to replace Abel, and his offspring were the wheat, the seed through which Jesus would come. But when, like I said, when you read the Bible, and I would strongly recommend reading the Bible, but read it in truth and understanding. And that those parables, they ain't just a made-up story. He's telling you stuff, true stuff. But like you said, if you don't believe him on the earthly things you tell him, how can he tell you about heavenly things and you're going to believe any of that? And for the Star Wars fans, might like to know that a lot of that Star Wars stuff is a real reflection on what's really going on in the universe, and especially this galaxy here, with sons of, in the Bible they're called the sons of light and the sons of darkness. In the Star Wars, it's the Jedi and the Sith. And the Emperor, this guy here, Satan, is a real troublemaker. He plays one side off against another, creates wars and distrust and hatred. Kind of like Yoda says, he's talking to young Anakin there. He's talking about he senses much fear in him, and Anakin goes, well, what difference does that make? And Yoda says, fear leads to anger, anger leads to hate, hate leads to suffering. And that's exactly true. When you're fearful about something, somebody scares you. Well, yeah, it scares you, and then you get mad because they scared you. Then you don't like it. You don't like them doing that to you. That's the hate. And then if you really get carried away with it, you want to get back at them, then you cause the suffering. So take note from, even a movie can have a lot of truth in it. But anyway, the thinker thinks he's thinking. Whenever you, like I said, you do something, then you start thinking, oh, was that right or wrong? I should have done that or done it different. Move on. Because you're not really thinking, you're debating something back and forth. Get up and move on. You'll find out if that ain't the way you wanted to go. Turn around, go back the other way, or do it over, or whatever you can do. If it's something you can't do over, learn from your mistakes and try not to make the same mistake again. But anyway, when you do move on, you find that and believe in God, and that all things work together for good for those that believe God. So then you come up to the Citadel, which was the lightning-struck tower in the old day. And that was the fall of man then. Fall got us in a lot of trouble. Lightning-struck tower, and it affected everybody, the rich man and the poor man both, or women, either one. When I say man, that includes male and female. And that's the same way the Bible talks about it. And neither one has more or less than either one. Men and women are equal, just like in the Unity card. Two halves of one flesh. There's the Citadel. When structured in this manner, it feels no lack. They're a tree of life in the old deck, just like the thinker is a tree of the knowledge of good and evil. And another thing about the thinker was it was sex in the Garden of Eden. That was the fruit that they ate of. Satan had sex with Eve, and then Eve showed Adam how to have sex. Think about it. Did you know how to have sex before someone showed you? So, like I said, read the Bible, but read it with some understanding. Give a little thought to stuff. Now, I'm pretty sure most people can understand this sword and crown. The king, the coming king, and that's Jesus, not Satan, although he's going to be pretending to be Jesus, and most of the people are going to flock after him. Just like I see a sign out in front of a church that I drive by. One of their little signs outside says, Jesus is coming, are you ready? When it should be saying, Satan is coming first, are you ready? Because if you're deceived by him, you're really going to have dues to pay. Yeah, you can still go to heaven later, but you'll be on the wrong side of the gulf for a while. And you won't like it there, particularly because you're separated from God. Anytime you get separated from God, you're in a world of hurt. And that sword is the sword that Jesus is bringing. Because there's war. There's war in heaven. Satan's cast out. That when they're talking about that cast down to earth, they're having a war out there now, and Satan's losing, and he's retreating back here to earth, his last stronghold, and his followers with him. When they come back here, everybody's going to believe that, like I said, like it's Jesus and his people. They're going to be looking for women. So all you beautiful women out there, beware, because them guys is really going to be looking for you girls. But anyway, here's this book. It's kind of a foundation, history. Here's our yin and yang. Our solar plexus here with the lion. The heart area with the torch. The unity figures here with man and woman. And together they produce seed. And here's that golden serpent. And this ain't the serpent, Satan. This is that golden serpent. Same one that when Moses cast his rod down in front of Pharaoh, his rod turned into a golden serpent. Now the magicians that Pharaoh had, they threw their rods down and they turned into serpents too. But that golden serpent of Moses' staff, it ate up those other serpents that the Egyptian magicians created there. So that's just kind of a hint to the power of his actual serpent. And also you'll read in there, if you read Exodus enough, you'll read in there about the brass serpent that was put up on a pole, and Jesus told about it too. And he'd be lifted up just like that one was lifted up. And when people looked at it after the flying serpents were biting them and killing them, if they looked up and saw that brass serpent on that pole, that saved their life. Like I said, read the Bible. It's got a lot of good information in it. For another reason, they call it the good book. Been a bestseller for ever since it's been published. And one of the reasons it is that bestseller is that all the prophecies in it have come true or are coming true, these last days ones, now right in front of our eyes. If you just open it up and look at it, and you worry or think about what the shape the world in is, what's going on in it, it tells you in the last days all this stuff would be happening. But they don't want to say that on the news or anything like that. And even the churches, most churches nowadays, they don't want to tell you the truth. They're a feel-good Sunday morning social club. And they don't want to say anything that makes people scared. But that's what people need to be, is scared really bad, because some really bad stuff's coming. And this staff over here with the wings and the roots, is we have our roots in the earth, flesh, but our being allows us to access the spiritual world and flights of fancy, if nothing else. This is the seventh chakra up here, the light. That's that bright light that people talk about seeing when they have the near-death experiences. Well, guys, I think we'll stop there on the 10th card, the Citadel, and been yapping for almost an hour here, and probably most people after about 30 minutes are ready to do something else. Anyway, we'll continue this tomorrow. I've never made a video before. I got to see how I figure out how to even post this up on the tube and all that kind of stuff. So thank you for listening, if you've listened this far, and we'll see you later. Bye.